Hi guys, it's Jasmine from the Mirror Gaming team here, and I am at Gamescom previewing the Zotac Zone. So Zotac are the latest company to bring out a gaming handheld. We obviously saw this back at Computex, and this is an updated version. The one we saw at Computex was much more of a prototype, so now we've got more of a final product to show you guys here. I've had hands-on with the device, played some games on it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Zotac Zone. So let's get into it. Here's the kicker. It comes in at £849/euros/dollars. It is the most expensive gaming handheld on the market compared to the competition right now. Very, very expensive. Whilst I was over at Gamescom, there was no confirmed release date for the Zotac Zone, but they've since confirmed that it will be coming on the 12th of September and is available for pre-order right now. The first thing I noticed when picking it up is that they have changed the material and the outward look. Just as expected, as I was told at Computex, it was a prototype version and the outing wasn't finished yet. So now the shell finally is finished. It's kind of a matte appearance. It's still plastic, but it feels very, very sturdy. And you have a strip of RGB on the back, which I'm always going to be happy about. You guys know me. You get a little kickstand if you want to stand it up on the table to play. And of course, just as we've seen before, you have two trackpads, one on either side, two joysticks, one on either side, and the joysticks have radial dials. The radial dials can be adjusted to whatever setting you want them to change, so whether that be the brightness or the volume. So you have two of those at your disposal. Another little bit of an odd feature on the Zotac Zone is the fact that it comes with a webcam. I haven't used it in my hands-on preview, but it's always there if you need it. I'm sure it can be useful for maybe security purposes, or if you decided that you wanted to video call your friends. The device obviously feels super comfortable to hold. Just like I said in my original preview, the shape hasn't really changed too much. It's mainly just the material, and it feels great around the edges where it's got a bit of an ergonomic design and texture for gripping. It feels great. The device does come in at roughly 690 grams, which is heavier than the Asus ROG Ally, for example, but much lighter than the Lenovo Legion Go. So it's somewhere in the middle. It doesn't feel particularly heavy when holding it. It does have a heft to it, as all of these sort of handheld devices will do, but it doesn't feel like it's hurting my wrists or anything like that. But then, of course, I've not been using it for a super long period of time. So unlike the other handhelds that we've seen in the past year, the Zotac Zone actually has a separate CPU and GPU rather than an all-in-one APU. So the CPU you get in the device is actually the AMD Ryzen 7 8840U. It has 8 cores and 16 threads, and it has a base clock speed of 3.3 gigahertz. And then the graphics card that you get inside the device is the AMD Radeon 780M. So both of these combined together actually are more powerful than the AMD Z1 Extreme chip that you can find in the Asus ROG Ally X or the Lenovo Legion Go. So hopefully you do get better performance out of this device than the other options on the market. But because I haven't actually been able to monitor frames properly, I can't confirm nor deny. However, I will say I played Horizon Forbidden West for a while in my hands-on preview, and it ran really smoothly. Most of the settings were between low and medium, so you're not getting the super amazing graphics that you'd get obviously on a full-size PC, but it still looks great because the screen is much smaller and is super duper smooth. It was running at roughly between 50 and 60 frames the entire time, and I didn't notice any choppiness or tearing or anything at all. So the Zotac Zone features an AMOLED screen and is 120 Hz, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously, anyone who's upgraded from the original Nintendo Switch to the OLED version or the original Steam Deck to the OLED version will always tell you that the OLED screen looks so much nicer than the LED counterparts. And Zotac have done the right option with going straight for the OLED to begin with, instead of having to release an OLED version later down the line. And when playing Horizon Forbidden West, obviously a very colourful game, the colours really, really popped, and you still get those dark scenes, so those look fantastic too. Honestly, I am such a massive OLED fan, so seeing it on a handheld makes it look absolutely fantastic. Massive, massive fan. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play any shooter games where frames really do make a big difference, and I would love to see if the frame rates on some of these other titles like Counter-Strike or Valorant live up to the 120 Hz display and can actually output that level of frames. You'll have to stay tuned for a full review to be able to see if that happens, where I can actually spend some time playing different games rather than just one or two, as I can do at hands-on preview events. The one major downside of the Zotac Zone I will comment on is the battery. Unfortunately, it only has a 48 watt-hour battery in it, which is much smaller than the recently released Asus ROG Ally X, where I was very impressed with the battery life. So considering the fact you have a more powerful processor and graphics card, having a smaller battery is a little bit disappointing. I've been told to get roughly 2 hours of AAA gameplay with the battery that's in this device right now, and although that's not the worst thing in the world, it is of course a little bit disappointing. I would have hoped that Zotac had learned from the competition and maybe not made the same mistakes, but unfortunately it seems like they have. You can find all of the full specs for the device on screen now. So just to talk about optional accessories that you can pick up separately to the actual device, these don't come with it. There is a carrying case, which is quite big, quite hefty, and very hard, so it can keep your device safe. And you've got loads of room for different bits and pieces inside of it as well. There's no confirmed pricing for these accessories just yet, so keep an eye out and hopefully Zotac will confirm them too. And you can also pick up a dock, and this is a great option if you're looking to use your Zotac Zone to power a whole setup, stuff like plugging in monitors, keyboards, or even hooking it up to your TV if you want to play it on the big screen. So I saw a prototype version of this dock earlier this year at Computex, and it was obviously just made of like plastic. It wasn't finished yet, but now the finished version looks absolutely fantastic. But again, there's no confirmed pricing. One of my favorite parts of the dock is the fact that it has an SSD slot at the bottom of it. So that means you can install an M2 SSD into the bottom of your dock, and once it's plugged into your Zotac Zone, it runs off of it, which is great if you need that extra bit of storage capacity and you don't want to subject yourself to using a memory card, which of course runs at a bit of a slower speed. That has been my first impressions after spending some time with the Zotac Zone. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think you're going to pick it up? Are you going to be waiting for a full review, or are you avoiding it like the plague? Why is it so expensive? You still only get 16 gigabytes of RAM and a very small battery and a 512 gigabyte storage capacity. So what's going on there, Zotac? Of course you do get the OLED screen, but I feel like this doesn't really make up for the insanely high price point. I am super duper disappointed with it, but maybe in my full review I'll say that it does live up to that price point. I really have to give it a full go to be able to tell. This has been Jasmine here at Gamescom with the Zotac Zone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!